Sarai moved through the quiet desert like a shadow of soft silver light, her steps gentle on the warm sand. She had been traveling for days, trying to understand this strange blue world that the galaxy spoke about but rarely visited. She was a widow from a distant star system, someone who had lost her home, her mate, and her people in a single tragic storm of fate. Her heart carried a weight she could not place anywhere, so she buried it inside herself and kept walking, hoping the emptiness in her chest would one day feel lighter. Her small landing pod, damaged in her long journey, barely worked now. Sparks flickered across its cracked panels, and the navigation screen glowed faintly with fading symbols from her language. She had tried to repair it several times, but Earth's sandstorms kept sweeping across the desert, filling the delicate joints and making each fix harder than the last. She had no tools left, no energy cells, and no clear plan. All she had was a quiet wish. Maybe this planet would let her rest for a while. The sun was setting, painting long shadows across the dry land. The air grew cooler, brushing against her pale skin. Her people usually lived under soft purple skies, not under the heavy orange glow of Earth's evening. The difference made her feel even more alone. Yet something about Earth felt calm. The wind carried simple scents, dust, grass, distant water. No war, no alarms, no danger. Only nature moving gently around her. Her body felt weaker than before. She had not eaten enough. The food she brought from her home was nearly gone, and she struggled to handle human food. Her legs trembled, and she took a slow breath. She reminded herself that she had survived far worse things. She would survive this too. But as the wind grew stronger, lifting sand into sharp little swirls, her vision blurred. She stumbled and leaned against her pod. The storm was coming fast, faster than she could prepare for. She tried to activate the shield panel, but the device flickered once and died. She tapped it again. Nothing. The sandstorm roared, throwing small, stinging grains against her face. She shielded her eyes with her arm and stepped backward, trying to walk away from the collapsing pod. The wind pushed harder. She could barely see. Her feet slipped on the uneven ground. Then her whole body gave up and she collapsed onto the sand. Before everything faded, she sensed something. Footsteps, slow and steady, approaching through the storm. Colt Heron had lived in the desert his whole life. He was a rugged cowboy who worked long hours on his family's old ranch, caring for cattle and fixing fences under the hot sun. Most people in the nearby town knew him as the quiet man who didn't speak much unless needed. He preferred hard work over crowds, silence over noise, and the open land over closed rooms. Life had shaped him into a man of calm strength, someone who handled trouble with patience instead of fear. That evening, he was riding his old pickup truck across the far side of his property, checking the land after hearing the wind shift. When storms came through this part of the desert, they came fast. He could see sand lifting into the sky ahead and knew he had only a few minutes before it reached him. As he drove, his truck's headlights caught something unusual, a soft silver glow on the ground. It wasn't metal from farm equipment or light reflecting off water. It was something else, something he had never seen before. He slowed the truck and stepped out. The wind pushed against him, but he moved through it with steady steps. His boots sank slightly in the sand as he followed the faint glow. Then he saw her, lying still, half covered by dust. A woman, though not like any woman he'd ever seen. Her hair shimmered with soft light, almost as if each strand carried a reflection of the night sky. Her skin was pale, smooth, almost luminous, with faint lines glowing near her temples. Colt knelt beside her. She felt warm but weak. He didn't know who she was or where she came from, but she was alone, unconscious, and in danger. That was enough. Colt did not care about the rest right now. Helping came first. He carefully lifted her into his arms. She was surprisingly light, as if gravity didn't hold her the same way it held humans. Her breathing was shallow but steady. He quickly carried her to his truck, shielding her from the storm as best he could. Sand beat against his back, but he didn't stop. He laid her gently across the passenger seat and shut the door. Then he drove away from the storm, heading straight for his ranch. During the drive, Colt kept glancing at her. Her hands were delicate, her features soft. She looked peaceful despite the harsh storm she'd been caught in. He noticed faint symbols glowing faintly along her wrist, like small patterns that pulsed with gentle light. He didn't understand any of it, but fear didn't rise in him, only curiosity and concern. Whoever she was, she needed help, and he wasn't the kind of man to leave someone to suffer. When Colt reached the ranch, he carried her inside his large but quiet home. He laid her carefully on the couch near the fireplace. The room smelled of old wood and warm earth. It was simple, clean, and calm, just like him. He turned on a small lamp, giving the room a soft glow. Then he knelt beside her again. A few moments later, Sarai's eyes opened slowly. Her vision was blurry at first, then shapes sharpened into view. She saw a tall man with a calm face, warm brown eyes, and dust still clinging to his clothes. He looked strong but gentle, and his expression held no fear, only quiet concern. Sarai tried to sit up, but he raised a hand slightly, silently telling her to rest. She felt the softness of the couch beneath her and realized she was inside a human home. The air was warm, safe. She tried to speak, but her voice came out weak and shaking. "You saved me?" Her words were soft, accented, carrying traces of her alien language. Colt nodded. He didn't know what else to say yet. He simply confirmed her question with a quiet look that meant more than words. Sarai blinked slowly, studying him. Most species in the galaxy reacted to her appearance with fear or suspicion. But this human showed neither. His calmness confused her in a gentle way. She lifted her hand slightly to thank him, and her glowing wrist markings pulsed softly. Colt watched but didn't flinch. His eyes showed curiosity but not fear. "You're safe here," Colt said finally, his voice low and steady. "Don't try to move too much. You were nearly caught in the storm." Sarai listened to his voice. It felt grounding, warm, like a stable anchor in her otherwise fragmented life. She looked around the room. Everything was simple. Wooden walls, old furniture, a small table with a lamp. Nothing advanced, nothing hostile, just a peaceful human home. "I did not mean to trouble you," she whispered. "It's no trouble," Colt replied. "Anyone out there alone in a storm needs help." His words made her chest tighten slightly. Her people believed kindness was a rare treasure, given only in moments of deep connection. Yet this human offered help without knowing anything about her. She didn't know whether to feel grateful or overwhelmed. Colt walked to the kitchen, filled a metal cup with water, and returned. He handed it to her without a word. Sarai took it slowly and drank. The cool water eased her throat. "You're hurt?" Colt asked. "Only tired," she replied gently. "Your storm was strong." He nodded. "The desert can be rough. You'll be all right now." Sarai looked at him for a long moment. Something inside her felt strangely warm. She didn't know what this man was to her or what her future would hold, but she felt safe for the first time in a very long time. As the fire crackled softly in the background, Colt covered her with a warm blanket and sat nearby, making sure she didn't faint again. Sarai watched him through half-closed eyes, her breathing steadying. His presence felt grounding, like a quiet shield around her. Outside, the storm faded. Inside the ranch house, something new began. Something Sarai did not understand yet, and something Colt did not realize was already forming. A small connection. Fragile but powerful, between two beings from different worlds, brought together by chance and a moment of unexpected kindness. Her long journey had brought her to Earth, but fate had brought her to him. Sarai woke slowly the next morning, feeling a warmth she had almost forgotten existed. Sunlight slipped through the window of Colt's ranch house, spreading a soft golden glow across the floor. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. Her mind still drifted between memories of her distant world and the long, cold journey that had brought her here. Then she turned her head and saw Colt's coat hanging near the door, his boots placed neatly beside it. She heard faint sounds from the kitchen, the clinking of cups, quiet movements. The memories returned all at once. She was not alone. She was safe in a human's home. Her body still ached slightly, but she felt stronger than the night before. She pushed the blanket aside and sat up slowly. Her glowing wrist markings no longer pulsed brightly. They were faint, weak, showing how low her energy had become. But she was alive, and that was enough. She stood up carefully and walked toward the kitchen doorway. Colt stood with his back to her, cooking something on the stove. The scent of food filled the air. Warm, simple, comforting. He turned when he heard her footsteps. "You're awake," he said softly. "How do you feel?" Sarai tilted her head. She still struggled with human language, but understood most of it. "Better," she replied. "Your shelter helped." Colt gave a small nod and placed a plate on the table. "You should eat a little." She looked at the food cautiously. It was bread, scrambled eggs, and some sliced fruit. Colt noticed her hesitation. "You don't have to eat the eggs if they don't sit right with you," he said. "But the fruit is mild." Sarai sat down and studied the plate, curious. She touched a piece of fruit and lifted it to her lips. The sweetness surprised her. It was fresh and gentle, nothing like the dried rations she had been surviving on. She ate slowly, trying to learn each flavor. Colt poured her a glass of water and placed it beside her. "You're lucky the storm wasn't stronger," he said. "If I hadn't been out there checking the land—" "You still came," she whispered. Colt didn't respond right away. He simply pulled out a chair and sat across from her. His calm presence filled the room in a quiet, steady way. Sarai watched him carefully. She learned long ago that reading someone's eyes revealed more truth than reading their words, and Colt's eyes showed something rare, kindness without demand. After a moment, she placed her hands on her lap. "I owe you thanks." "You don't owe me anything," Colt replied. "Anyone would have done the same." Sarai knew that wasn't true. Not on most worlds, not in most corners of the galaxy. But she didn't argue. She simply nodded and continued eating. When she finished, she placed the plate down gently. "Your world is different from mine," she said quietly. "Everything feels slower." Colt opened the window to let in cool morning air. "Life's simple out here," he said. "Not much happens. Just work, weather, and keeping things running." Sarai stepped closer to the window. The open ranch stretched far into the desert. Golden fields, grazing cattle, wooden fences, distant hills. It felt peaceful in a way she hadn't experienced in years. "What do you call this place?" she asked. "Just the Heron Ranch," Colt answered. "It's been in my family for a long time." Sarai touched the wooden frame of the window. "It feels calm." "That's why I like it," Colt said. For a long moment, they both stood in quiet thought. Sarai felt something gentle grow inside her chest, something she didn't recognize at first. It wasn't fear or sadness. It was something warmer, something like comfort. Colt cleared his throat lightly. "If you're feeling strong enough later, I can show you around. Only if you want." Sarai nodded. "I would like that." The rest of the morning passed softly. Sarai washed her face with cool water and tried to understand the simple objects around the house. She touched the wooden furniture, the metal cups, the lamps, the old photographs on the wall. Each item felt like a piece of a life lived with routine and quiet strength. By midday, Colt returned from checking on the cattle and invited Sarai outside. She followed him into the sunlight, her long, pale hair glowing softly. She shaded her eyes with her hand. Colt walked slowly, making sure she could keep up. "Storms hit hardest on that side," he said, pointing to the north. "But the land's good. Strong soil, plenty of grazing space." Sarai listened closely. She didn't understand every detail, but she enjoyed the sound of his voice. It was calm, steady, grounding. They reached the barn. The wooden structure stood tall, warm, and smelling faintly of hay. Colt pushed the door open, and sunlight streamed inside. Horses stood quietly in their stalls, flicking their tails and watching him with familiar trust. Sarai stepped inside, her eyes widening in soft wonder. "They're big," she whispered. Colt smiled slightly. "They're gentle. They won't hurt you." One of the horses stepped forward, curious. Sarai moved slowly, lifting her hand. The horse lowered its head, letting her touch its mane. She felt its warmth, the slow rhythm of its breathing. It was peaceful, alive, unafraid. "It feels kind," Sarai said softly. Colt nodded. "Animals sense good people." Sarai looked at him. She wanted to ask what he sensed in her, but her voice stayed quiet. She instead turned back to the horse, gently stroking its coat. As they walked back toward the house, Colt glanced at her wrist, noticing the glowing markings. "Those lights on your skin," he said carefully. "They mean something?" Sarai looked down. The faint patterns pulsed slowly, like quiet breathing. "They are part of me. They change with my energy." "So they're not dangerous?" Colt said, half question, half statement. "No," Sarai replied. "They show my strength level. Right now, very low." Colt nodded. "Then you should rest as much as you need." Sarai felt warmth rise in her chest again. This human didn't pry too deeply. He asked only what mattered. She appreciated that more than he knew. The day passed quietly. They shared a simple lunch. Sarai tried to help Colt with small tasks, sorting tools, carrying light supplies, brushing the horses. Colt didn't let her overwork herself, guiding her gently with a careful eye. By late afternoon, Sarai felt a strange weakness again. Not from hunger, not from fear, something else. A kind of softness in her body she couldn't explain. She sat on the porch, touching her stomach lightly. There was no pain, only warmth, but it puzzled her. Her species rarely experienced physical changes without clear reason. Colt noticed her expression. "You all right?" Sarai nodded slowly. "I think so. Just tired." "Then rest," he said. "You've had a long journey." She leaned back in the wooden chair, watching the wide sky above the ranch. The clouds drifted slowly, soft and white. She breathed in the clean air and felt a quiet peace settle inside her. Something about this planet, about Colt himself, made her feel safe in a way she hadn't felt since before she lost her mate. As evening settled, Colt made a small dinner, and Sarai watched him move around the kitchen with simple ease. She found herself studying him, not just his strength, but the calm way he handled each task, the patience in his movements. He reminded her of the steady guardians who once protected her homeworld's quiet gardens. After dinner, they sat near the fireplace again. The flames danced softly, filling the room with warm orange light. Sarai felt her body relaxing, her breathing slow. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for helping me, for letting me stay." Colt shook his head. "It's not a problem. Stay as long as you need." Sarai looked into the fire. "My world is gone. I have nowhere else to go." Colt didn't react with shock or questions. He simply watched her for a moment, then said, "You're safe here." Those simple words made something shift deep inside her. Safety, a feeling she thought she had lost forever. She felt her wrist markings pulse softly with gentle light, responding to the emotion she tried to hide. She placed her hand on her chest, feeling her heart beat in a slow, steady rhythm. Something was changing inside her, something subtle, something she couldn't explain yet. But she didn't fear it. Colt stood up to check the fire, and Sarai watched him with soft eyes. She felt a gentle bond forming, something small but growing with every moment. She didn't know what it meant yet, but she knew her life had taken a new path the moment she crossed the desert and found him. Outside, the wind moved quietly across the ranch. Inside, two worlds sat together in calm silence, unaware that something far greater than either of them had already begun taking shape, something living, forming, and waiting to be discovered. Sarai woke before sunrise the next morning, long before Colt stepped out of his room. The sky outside the window was still a deep blue, slowly turning lighter as dawn approached. She sat up slowly, feeling that same strange softness in her body that had been growing stronger each day. It wasn't exactly pain, and it wasn't sickness. It was more like a warm pulse deep inside her, something alive, something new. But she still didn't understand it. She placed her hand gently on her stomach. Her breathing steadied. Her wrist markings glowed with a soft golden light she had never seen before. Her markings were usually silver, faint and cool, but now they carried a warm color that belonged to no memory from her past. She touched the glowing lines with confusion. Nothing like this had ever happened to her or anyone she knew. She stood quietly and walked to the window. The ranch stretched wide and calm under the early morning sky. The quiet land reminded her of her old home before everything changed. It made her heart feel both heavy and peaceful at the same time. A moment later, she sensed Colt behind her. He walked with quiet steps, his boots soft on the wooden floor. "You're up early," he said. Sarai turned to face him. His hair was still slightly messy from sleep, and he rubbed the back of his neck as he spoke. She felt an odd warmth in her chest when she looked at him, an emotion she didn't know how to name. "I could not sleep," she said softly. "Something feels strange." Colt took a step closer, his brows slightly furrowed with concern. "Strange how?" Sarai hesitated. She didn't want to worry him. She didn't want him to think she was dangerous or unstable. She struggled to find the right words. "My body feels different," she whispered. "Not weak, but changing." "Changing how?" Colt asked gently. She placed her hand on her stomach again. Her markings glowed in response. Colt noticed, and his eyes softened. He didn't look frightened, only concerned, steady, patient, like always. "I do not know," Sarai admitted quietly. "My people, we do not change like this without reason, but I do not know what the reason could be." Colt nodded thoughtfully. "Maybe your body's reacting to Earth. New air, new food, new gravity." Sarai wanted it to be that simple, but she shook her head slowly. "This feels deeper." Colt didn't push her for more. Instead, he motioned toward the kitchen. "Let's sit." "You don't look steady on your feet." Sarai followed him and sat at the table. Colt poured her warm tea and set it in front of her. She wrapped her hands around the cup, feeling the heat. He sat across from her, watching with calm eyes. "You don't have to explain anything you're not ready to," Colt said quietly. "But if you're hurting or scared, you should tell me." Sarai lifted her eyes to his. Something inside her softened even more. Humans surprised her again and again, especially this one. On most worlds, someone like her would be studied, feared, questioned. But Colt simply listened. He never forced her to speak, yet his presence made her want to share. "I am not scared," she said softly. "Not anymore. Not here." Colt held her gaze for a moment, and she felt a quiet connection pass between them, gentle and warm. She looked down at her tea, unsure what else to say. After breakfast, Colt went outside to begin his daily work. Sarai followed him slowly, feeling calmer but still puzzled by her body's changes. The morning air was crisp, and the land glowed under the rising sun. Colt walked to the barn to check the horses, and Sarai helped by brushing one of the gentle mares. Her mind drifted as she worked, thinking about her past, her present, and the strange future she felt growing inside her. After a while, Colt stepped beside her. "You don't have to push yourself," he said. "You look tired." Sarai gave a faint smile. "Working helps me think." "What are you thinking about?" Colt asked. "Everything," she answered softly. "My past, my future, this place. You." Colt didn't respond right away. His eyes softened, and he looked away for a moment. "You've been through a lot. Anyone would think about all that." Sarai shook her head gently. "It is more than memories. Something inside me feels new. I do not understand it yet." Colt leaned against the barn wall, folding his arms. "Whatever it is, you don't have to face it alone." His words settled deep in her heart. She looked at him, feeling a quiet warmth that scared her in a good way. She wasn't used to such emotional closeness, not after losing so much. The rest of the morning passed peacefully. Sarai helped Colt gather water, checked the fences, and watched him fix a broken gate. She admired the way he worked. Steady hands, focused eyes, no wasted movement. He was someone who knew how to take care of things, how to keep the world from falling apart one task at a time. By noon, Sarai felt the strange warmth return again. Stronger this time. Her steps slowed. She pressed a hand to her stomach and closed her eyes. Colt noticed immediately. "You all right?" he asked, stepping closer. Sarai nodded weakly. "It is happening again." Colt gently took her arm. "Let's go sit." He guided her to the shade of the porch and helped her sit on the steps. She leaned back, breathing slowly. Colt knelt beside her, watching her with concern. "What kind of change are you feeling?" he asked quietly. Sarai hesitated. She knew she needed to tell him the truth soon. Her species had a special way of creating new life, something rare and mysterious even among the stars. It didn't happen through the same ways humans understood. It happened through emotional resonance, through deep connection, through safety strong enough to spark new beginnings. But admitting that would mean revealing how strongly she had bonded with Colt, even if unintentionally. She wasn't sure she was ready to expose that truth. Colt noticed her silence. "Sarai," he said softly, "you don't have to be scared to tell me." She opened her eyes slowly. "I am not scared of you," she whispered. "I am scared of what you might think of me." Colt shook his head. "You've been honest since you got here. I'm not going to judge you for anything." Sarai's throat tightened. She took a quiet breath and placed her glowing wrist markings against her chest. "My people reproduce in a different way. We do not need physical closeness. We need emotional safety, a deep bond, a quiet trust." Colt listened with full attention. "Only one in many thousands of my people can even experience this kind of bond," she continued softly. "It is rare. It is sacred. It is tied to our hearts, not our bodies." Colt's expression didn't change. He didn't look confused or scared, only concerned for her well-being. Sarai placed her hand again on her stomach. "My body is changing because a new life is forming. I did not expect it. I did not plan it. I did not know it was even possible after my loss." Colt breathed out slowly, absorbing her words. "Because of the bond you mentioned?" She nodded weakly. Because of the safety I feel here. With you. Colt's eyes softened. And this is hurting you? No, Sarai said quickly. It is not pain, it is life. It feels warm. It feels peaceful. But I did not want to frighten you. Colt shook his head gently. You didn't frighten me. Sarai looked up at him, her eyes shining faintly. You believe me? I do, he said simply. I don't understand alien science, but I understand you. You wouldn't lie about something like this. Sarai felt her heart soften at his words. Her wrist markings glowed with that same warm golden light, stronger than ever. But before she could speak again, a sudden pulse of energy echoed faintly through the sky. Sarai stiffened. Colt noticed instantly. What was that? He asked. Sarai looked toward the horizon, fear rising for the first time since she came to Earth. My energy signature, she whispered. Someone in space felt it. Colt stood up. Is that bad? Sarai swallowed hard. Yes, very bad. Not all alien factions are peaceful. Some might want what I carry. Colt took a step closer, his voice steady. You're not running alone. Whatever's coming, we face it together. Sarai looked at him, her eyes softening. Her heart tightening with emotion she couldn't hide anymore. She didn't know what her future held, but she knew one thing clearly now. She wasn't alone. Not anymore. The sky above the ranch was calm, but Sarai's heart was not. She could feel distant energy, quiet pulses coming from somewhere beyond Earth's atmosphere. It was faint, but clear enough for her to understand. Someone had sensed her presence. Someone had noticed the new life forming inside her. She stood on the porch, one hand on her stomach and the other gripping the wooden railing. The air around her felt colder, even though the sun was still shining. Colt stepped out of the house, noticing the worry in her eyes. They're close? Sarai nodded slowly. Not on the planet yet. But watching. Colt looked out across the desert, his jaw tight but his voice steady. What do they want? Sarai closed her eyes for a moment. My species' energy is rare. It can create powerful life. Some alien groups believe our children can be used for their own gain. They may not want to harm me, but they may try to take the child. Colt didn't look shaken. Instead, he stepped closer and placed a steady hand on the porch railing. That's not happening. Sarai turned to him. His calmness settled something inside her. You do not even fully understand what is happening, she whispered. I don't have to, Colt replied. I just know you're not facing this alone. Sarai looked at him for a long moment, her eyes softening with deep emotion. She had never expected anyone, especially a human, to accept her truth so gently. But Colt wasn't just accepting it. He was standing beside her, without hesitation. As the afternoon passed, Sarai walked the ranch restlessly. She wanted to understand the signals better. Each pulse from the sky felt closer, stronger, almost as if an unseen observer was drifting above Earth. Her glowing wrist markings pulsed in response, showing her energy rising with worry. Colt stayed near her, ready to support her at any moment. His presence kept her grounded. Whenever her steps faltered, he steadied her with a gentle hand on her arm. She felt a warmth inside her chest each time he touched her. Not the same warmth caused by her body's changes, but something emotional. Something she had not allowed herself to feel for many years. As evening approached, the sky turned orange and pink. The cattle quieted. The wind grew soft, but the quiet only made Sarai more aware of the growing tension above. Colt noticed her uneasiness and guided her to sit on a wooden bench near the barn. Tell me what they'll do, he said. Sarai took a deep breath. They will first scan. They will measure energy. If they think I am alone, they might send a small landing craft. If they sense danger, they might send more. Colt studied her carefully. But they won't hurt you? Sarai hesitated. Not in their own minds. They believe they are claiming something powerful, something they think belongs to the galaxy. But you're not something to claim, Colt said quietly. Sarai looked down at her hands. My people never wanted others to fear us, but our abilities made us special, and special things attract attention. She paused, then whispered, That is why I left my old world. I could not carry the weight of others' expectations. Colt leaned forward. You're not a burden, Sarai, not to me. Her throat tightened. She turned her face slightly away, hiding the soft shimmer in her eyes. Her wrist markings glowed gently with warm gold light. They sat together until the first stars appeared. The night grew cool. Colt lit a lantern and hung it near the entrance of the house. Sarai watched the small flame flicker in the glass. It reminded her of the soft lights her mate once kept in their home. She felt a pang of loss, but also a feeling of new hope, one she was still afraid to fully accept. Later, as they stood outside watching the sky, a faint light streaked across the horizon. It wasn't a shooting star. It moved too slowly, too deliberately, gliding through the upper atmosphere like a silent watcher. They're here, Sarai whispered. Colt stepped beside her. Then we stay together. Sarai felt her hands trembling. She hadn't expected the aliens to arrive so soon, and she certainly hadn't expected them to descend in such a direct way. Her mind raced. Would they demand she surrender? Would they threaten? Would they simply take her without speaking? But Colt's calm voice brought her back. What do we do? He asked gently. Sarai swallowed her fear. We show them I am not alone. They must see that Earth protects its own. Colt nodded once. All right. Minutes later, a soft hum filled the air. A small vessel descended from above, glowing pale blue. It landed quietly in the open field near the ranch. The air shimmered around it as its engines cooled. Sarai stepped forward slowly, her pulse racing. Colt walked at her side, his posture steady, unshaken. A door opened on the vessel, and two tall alien figures stepped out. They had long silver armor and narrow helmets that covered their faces. Their movements were smooth and precise. They stopped several feet away from Sarai. One of them spoke, their voice echoing slightly through a translator. Sarai of the Lumian line, we detected your energy. You carry a resonance new to your kind. Sarai stood straight, her voice calm but strong. I do. It is mine, and I will protect it. The alien tilted their head slightly. Your line has not formed new life in many cycles. This is valuable. You must come with us. Colt's hand tightened slightly. Sarai felt the warmth of his silent support beside her. She stepped forward. I will not leave this world, Sarai said. I choose this place. I choose this life. The second alien stepped forward. You do not understand. This child is not only Lumayan. Its resonance is mixed. That is impossible. That makes it even more important. Colt stepped forward now, placing himself slightly in front of Sarai. She said she's not leaving. That's the end of it. The aliens paused, surprised by the human's boldness. One scanned Colt with a small device. Human, primitive, emotionally unstable, unsuited for guardianship. Colt didn't move. She's safe with me. Sarai's heart tightened with emotion. She stepped up beside him. He is not primitive, she said. He saved my life. He gave me safety, and that safety created something new, something pure. The aliens seemed confused. A human cannot be part of such resonance. Sarai lifted her hands gently, her golden markings glowing brightly. And yet he is. The two aliens exchanged long, silent glances. Their scanners flickered in complex patterns. After several moments, the first alien spoke again. A child formed from Lumian essence and human emotional resonance. This has never happened. It means your bond is real. The second alien lowered their device. If this is true, then Earth must be marked as a world of value, one worthy of respect. Colt watched quietly, not understanding everything but catching enough to stay calmly protective. The aliens finally stepped back. We will leave, but we will observe from afar. If the child grows strong, the galaxy may change because of it. Sarai bowed her head slightly. Let Earth grow in peace. The aliens returned to their vessel. A moment later, it lifted into the sky, rising silently until it disappeared among the stars. Colt let out a slow breath. That went better than I expected. Sarai turned to him. Her markings glowed with warm gold light. You protected me. He shook his head. No, I just stood by you. That is protection, she whispered. Colt looked at her with soft eyes. What happens now? Sarai placed a hand on her stomach, feeling the gentle warmth of the new life forming. Now, we build a home, a place for this child, a place where two worlds meet. Colt nodded, his voice quiet but strong. Then we'll do it together. Sarai stepped closer, feeling a peace she had not known in many years. The ranch house glowed softly in the night. The desert wind was gentle. The stars shone brighter than before. For the first time since leaving her old world, Sarai felt not just safe, but hopeful. Above them, the galaxy watched. But on this quiet ranch, two hearts from different worlds began shaping a new future, one filled with warmth, courage, and a life growing brighter every day.